My sister's children deliberately threw their food and spilled chocolate milk all over me, so in response, I refused to purchase any Christmas gifts for them this year. Consequently, she has now leveled the accusation against me of being a child abuser. My sister, whom we'll call Amelia, is 32 years old and I am 28. She is the mother of 3 children, a son, Mason, who is 11, a daughter, Olivia, aged 9, and another daughter, Lily, who is 6. Yes, these are fictional names to protect their privacy, but the dynamic they hint at is quite real. Now, Amelia and her husband, David, have been married for approximately 12 years, and they both hold respectable, well-paying jobs, so they are by no means struggling financially. To fully grasp the situation, I need to paint a comprehensive picture of what I've been enduring with these children for what feels like an eternity, because this Christmas conflict did not just materialize out of nowhere. The issues really began to surface when Mason was around 4 years old. Amelia had adopted a philosophy that viewed traditional parenting as stifling, aiming instead to cultivate what she called free thinking, empowered children. In practical terms, this meant that these kids have almost never heard the word no in their entire lives. I mean that quite literally. Amelia and David favored a method of gentle redirection over establishing any concrete, non-negotiable boundaries. The first time the severity of the problem became glaringly obvious to me was during Mason's 6th birthday party, held at a popular kids' arcade and pizza place. This child spotted another youngster playing an arcade game he wanted to try. So, he simply marched up to the machine and physically pulled the other child off of it. When the other little boy started to cry and his parents intervened, Amelia's response was to tell Mason, "I can see you really want to play that game, and your feelings are completely valid, but maybe we can work together to find a way for everyone to have fun." There was no apology offered to the other family. There were no consequences whatsoever for Mason. The other parents just exchanged looks of pure, unadulterated disbelief. But the situation has only escalated from there. During family gatherings, these children treat every relative's home as their own personal playground. Olivia once decided she disliked the ham our mother had prepared for Easter, so she proceeded to dump her entire plate onto the dining room floor, loudly demanding chicken nuggets instead. Rather than disciplining her or making her clean up her own mess, Amelia turned to our mother and asked if she happened to have any chicken nuggets. When my mother understandably said no, Amelia dispatched David to a fast food drive-thru to fetch some. I stood there and watched my 65-year-old mother get down on her hands and knees to scrub the floor, all while Olivia watched with a smug little smirk on her face. Lily, the 6-year-old, has developed a habit of screaming, and I am talking about truly blood-curdling screaming, whenever she doesn't get exactly what she wants, the very instant she wants it. We are talking about full-throated, eardrum-piercing shrieks that could make a banshee envious. During my cousin's wedding ceremony last summer, she had a complete meltdown because she wanted to hold the bride's bouquet. Amelia's solution. She walked up to the altar, right in the middle of the wedding vows, and asked the bride if Lily could please hold the bouquet for just a minute. The bride was so stunned by the audacity of the request that she couldn't say no. As a result, this 6-year-old spent the remainder of the ceremony swinging around a $300 floral arrangement. Now, this is where the story becomes intensely personal for me. I am childless by choice, and I have always embraced the role of the fun aunt who loves to spoil the children in our extended family. I genuinely adore kids. I just have no desire to have my own. But with Amelia's children, every single interaction feels like navigating a treacherous minefield. 2 years ago, I took all 3 of them to the zoo to celebrate Mason's birthday. I spent well over $200 on admission tickets, meals, and souvenirs for them. Inside the gift shop, Lily decided she had to have a large stuffed elephant that cost $45. When I gently explained to her that I had already purchased a souvenir for each of them, and that was enough for one day, she threw herself onto the floor of the gift shop and began wailing as if she were being brutally murdered. Mason immediately chimed in, complaining that it wasn't fair that Lily was so upset, and Olivia then burst into tears, claiming the screaming was hurting her ears. Instead of leaving or disciplining Lily, I caved and purchased the elephant just to make the screaming stop. But of course, that opened the floodgates. Mason then demanded a $60 remote control car because Lily had received something extra. Olivia then requested a second stuffed animal to be fair to Lily. By the time we finally escaped the gift shop, I had spent an additional $150 on top of what I had already paid, and I felt completely manipulated and taken advantage of by a trio of children. That was a significant wake-up call for me, but it took another 1.5 years before I finally put my foot down for good. The final straw occurred during my own birthday dinner this past October. I had made reservations at a rather nice restaurant. Amelia insisted on bringing all 3 kids, which I initially agreed to, but within 10 minutes of being seated, chaos had erupted. Lily was standing on her chair, trying to grab the bread basket from the neighboring table. Mason was loudly complaining that there was nothing on the menu he liked and demanded to know why I hadn't picked a restaurant that served chicken tenders. Olivia was using her fork to launch butter packets across the dining room. When I pleaded with Amelia to please get her children under control because other patrons were staring, she retorted that I was being judgmental and that children need to be allowed to express themselves. Express themselves by flinging dairy products at strangers, apparently. The absolute breaking point came when Lily knocked over her entire full glass of chocolate milk, which spilled all over my new white outfit and my purse. Instead of apologizing or helping to clean up, Amelia just laughed and said, "Well, that's what you get for wearing white around children." It was my fault for having the audacity to expect basic table manners. I ended up leaving my own birthday dinner early, covered in a sticky brown stain and with my night completely ruined. The server looked mortified, and I left a massive tip out of sheer embarrassment for their behavior. That very night, I made a decision. I was done, completely and utterly finished with enabling this behavior. So, when Amelia sent me a text in early November asking what I was getting her babies for Christmas, I told her directly that I would not be buying them anything this year. She called me almost immediately, demanding to know what she had done wrong. I explained that I found every interaction with her children to be exhausting and stressful, and that their behavior at my birthday dinner had deeply hurt my feelings. Amelia's response was to tell me that I just don't understand what it's like to be a parent, and that I hold unrealistic expectations for children. She accused me of being petty and vindictive, punishing innocent children for simply acting their age. But here is the thing. I spend time with many other children in our family and social circle, and none of them behave this way. My cousin's kids are 7 and 9, and they are capable of saying please and thank you, cleaning up after themselves, and sitting through a meal without causing a major scene. My best friend's 8-year-old helps clear the table and has never once thrown food or intentionally knocked something over. Amelia insists her children are just vibrant and self-aware, but what I see are 3 small tyrants who have never been taught that other people's feelings matter or that their actions have real consequences. I recognize that Amelia's parenting style is her choice, and I am not trying to dictate how she raises her children. But I also do not believe that I should be obligated to financially support and reward behavior that makes every family gathering an unbearable ordeal for everyone else involved. My parents keep telling me that I'm the adult and I should be the bigger person. But I feel like I have been the bigger person for years while I watch these children learn that they can treat people however they want with 0 repercussions. Isn't it about time someone demonstrated to them that their actions directly impact how others are willing to engage with them? So, to the internet forum, am I the one in the wrong for refusing to buy Christmas presents for children who have never shown a shred of gratitude and whose behavior consistently ruins family events? Update 1. I received a phone call from Amelia at 3 in the afternoon, and she was screaming so loudly that I had to hold the phone several inches away from my ear. Apparently, her friend Sarah is a user on the same online forum and recognized the story immediately. Sarah sent Amelia the link with the message, "Girl, is this about you?" Amelia read the entire post, including the hundreds of comments, and she is absolutely furious. She started the call by accusing me of publicly shaming her and her children on the internet and airing our private family business for strangers to judge. She went on a long rant about how I made her look like a terrible mother and that I had no right to share sensitive details about her family life. I attempted to explain that I hadn't used anyone's real names and that I was genuinely seeking advice, but she was not hearing any of it. She accused me of being cruel for writing about her children in such a negative light, and claimed she had no idea how much I secretly despised her entire family. Then she went completely nuclear. She told me that for years, she has been protecting me from what other family members really think about my life choices, claiming that everyone in the family thinks I'm selfish for not having children, and that I'll never understand true love until I become a mother. She said David has always thought I was cold and judgmental, and that they've been walking on eggshells around me for years because they feel sorry for my sad, lonely life. That part hurt far more than I expected it to. I had always believed Amelia and I were close, despite our different views on parenting. But wait, it gets worse. After Amelia finished screaming at me, she immediately called our parents and gave them her version of what happened. By her version, I mean she told them I posted horrible lies about her children on an internet forum, called them awful names, and publicly mocked them. My mom called me about 20 minutes later, completely heartbroken, repeatedly asking how I could do this to my own family. She said Amelia was hysterical and that the kids were asking why their aunt hates them. When I tried to clarify that I never said I hated the kids, only that their behavior was problematic, Mom cut me off, saying that attacking children online was a line she never thought I would cross. Dad called next, and he was furious. He accused me of betraying the family's trust and said that what happens in our family should stay in our family. He told me that Amelia is struggling and that instead of supporting her, I made her a public laughingstock. He said he was ashamed of how I handled this and that I needed to apologize immediately and delete the post. The truth is, I don't feel like I should apologize because I didn't lie about anything. Everything I wrote actually happened, but I'm starting to wonder if posting about it publicly was the right move. Amelia sent me screenshots of some of the comments, which called her a bad mother and described her children as monsters. She said that reading those comments made her feel physically sick, and that she couldn't even look at her own children without thinking about what strangers on the internet were saying about them. She told me she has been trying her absolute best as a mother, and that she chose this gentle parenting approach because she was raised with very strict discipline, which she claims gave her anxiety and low self-esteem. She said she never wants her children to feel the fear and shame that she felt growing up, and that she would rather have confident, assertive children than kids who are afraid to express their needs. I honestly had no idea Amelia felt that way about our childhood. We had what I considered to be fairly normal parents who expected us to follow rules and face consequences if we didn't. I never saw it as traumatic, but perhaps she experienced it differently. She is now saying that if I come to Christmas dinner, she will not bring the children because she doesn't want them anywhere near someone who views them as monsters. Mom is begging me to just apologize and take down the post so that Christmas isn't ruined. My brother also called, and he was quite level-headed about it. He said he understands why I was frustrated and that Amelia's kids do have behavioral issues, but that posting it on a public forum was probably not the best way to handle it. He thinks I should apologize for the public post, but hold my ground on the Christmas gifts. David hasn't contacted me directly, but Amelia says he's furious with me and thinks I'm a toxic person who has been faking my affection for their family while secretly judging them all along. He's apparently been telling Amelia for years that I look down on them, and this post was all the confirmation he needed. The worst part is that some of the commenters managed to find Amelia's social media profiles. She had to make all her accounts private because people were leaving comments on photos of her children. No one said anything overtly nasty, but people were leaving passive-aggressive comments like, "so well-behaved," and "such perfect angels," which was clearly mocking in the context of my post. Amelia is convinced this will follow her children for the rest of their lives, and that when they're older, someone will find this post and use it to hurt them. She says I have caused irreparable harm to her children by writing about them this way. I am sorry that things escalated so dramatically. I truly didn't think anyone we knew would see it, and I certainly never wanted Amelia to be bullied online. At the same time, I'm angry because she's acting as though I invented everything, when all I did was accurately describe events that occurred. Some of you pointed out in the comments that Amelia's approach isn't actually gentle parenting. It's just permissive parenting with a trendier name. Some people think her kids will struggle immensely in the real world if they never learn that their actions have consequences. All of that resonates with me, but I'm questioning whether I made a huge mistake by airing this publicly instead of just setting my boundaries privately and dealing with the inevitable family fallout. However, every attempt to speak with Amelia privately has failed. Each time I try to address the kid's behavior, she becomes incredibly defensive and treats it as a personal attack on her parenting. She always falls back on the line, "You don't understand because you don't have children," and the conversation ends with me backing down to keep the peace. I thought getting outside perspectives would help me see if I was being reasonable or if I was expecting too much. But now it just feels like I've poured gasoline on the fire. Mom wants me to post an update saying I was wrong and that Amelia is a wonderful mother. Dad wants me to delete everything and pretend it never happened. Amelia is demanding a public apology from me and for me to admit that I lied about her children. I'm supposed to go to my parents' house tomorrow for our annual pre-Christmas cookie baking day, but Amelia has announced she won't come if I'm there. Mom is beside herself because this is a tradition we've had since we were little girls. I don't know what to do. Update 2. My goodness. I don't even know where to begin to describe what happened at Christmas dinner yesterday. I am writing this from my own home. First, let me update you on what transpired between my last post and Christmas Day. I did not apologize or delete the post, which in hindsight was probably not the best choice for family harmony, but I just couldn't bring myself to say I was lying when I wasn't. The cookie baking day was, in fact, canceled because Amelia refused to attend if I was there. Mom was heartbroken and kept calling both of us, trying to mediate, but Amelia was adamant that she would not be in the same room as me until I made things right. For more than a week, it looked like Christmas dinner itself would also be canceled. Amelia told my parents she felt unsafe bringing the kids around me, and Dad was furious with me for ruining Christmas. But then Mom came up with what she called a brilliant compromise. She proposed that Amelia and her family could come for Christmas dinner, and then I could come over for dessert after they had left. That way, the kids could still see their grandparents for Christmas, and Amelia wouldn't have to face me. I was hurt at being pushed out of my own family's Christmas celebration. But I agreed because I didn't want to be the reason the kids couldn't see their grandparents on Christmas. Of course, Amelia changed her mind at the last minute. She decided that my presence in the house at all, even after they were gone, was disrespectful to her family. She told Mom that my being there would cast a shadow over the entire day because she'd be worried about how I would judge and criticize her children afterward. So, Mom made another executive decision. She called me on Christmas morning and said Amelia and her family were already on their way over, and maybe I could just stop by for a few minutes to say Merry Christmas and then leave before things got too tense. I should have said no. I should have stayed home and streamed a show like my gut was telling me to do, but it's Christmas, and I missed my family. I arrived at my parents' house around 2 in the afternoon, and the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife the moment I walked through the door. Amelia was in the kitchen helping Mom with dinner, and she physically turned her back on me when I said hello. David was in the living room with the kids, and he gave me a curt nod without making any eye contact. Mom was trying so hard to pretend everything was normal. She was overly cheerful and chatty, asking me about work and my apartment, desperately trying to fill the awkward silence. Dad was civil but distant. He would answer if I spoke to him, but he didn't initiate any conversation. At first, the kids seemed pretty normal. Lily actually ran up and gave me a hug as if nothing had happened, which honestly just made me feel worse about the whole situation. Mason and Olivia were more reserved, but that was likely a result of their parents coaching them on how to behave around me, rather than their own feelings toward me. I had brought a bottle of wine for my parents and some fancy hot chocolate bombs for the kids, not as Christmas presents, but as a small peace offering. When I gave the kids the hot chocolate, Lily was thrilled and wanted to make one right away. Mom said it was fine, and for a fleeting moment, I started to think that maybe things would be okay. That is precisely when everything went terribly wrong. Lily wanted her hot chocolate made with milk instead of water, so Mom started heating some milk in a pot on the stove. Lily was bouncing around the kitchen, getting more and more excited, and she kept reaching out to touch the pot to help. Both Mom and I told her several times to step back because the stove was hot, but she wasn't listening. Amelia was standing right there, but since she was giving me the silent treatment, she apparently decided to take a break from parenting as well, because she said nothing to Lily about stove safety. You can probably guess what happened next. Lily reached up to grab the handle of the pot, and while I managed to grab her arm just before she made contact, she lost her balance and stumbled into the side of the stove. She wasn't burned, but she got a fright and immediately started crying. I knelt down instantly to make sure she was okay, and she seemed fine, just startled, but Amelia completely lost her mind. She flew across the kitchen, snatched Lily away from me, and started screaming at the top of her lungs about how I had put her child in danger. I tried to explain that I was actually trying to prevent Lily from getting hurt, but Amelia shrieked that I had grabbed Lily aggressively and was taking my anger out on an innocent child. She kept screaming that I was violent and that she knew I was going to hurt her children eventually. David came rushing in and got right in my face, telling me I had crossed a major line and demanding that I leave immediately. Dad was trying to calm everyone down, but Amelia was hysterical, screaming that I was dangerous and that she should call the police. The worst part was that Lily had stopped crying and was just looking around, confused as to why everyone was yelling. Olivia started crying because of all the shouting. I kept trying to explain what really happened, but no one was listening to me. In Amelia's mind, a narrative had formed that I had intentionally tried to harm Lily, and nothing I could say was going to change it. Mom was in tears, pleading with everyone to please calm down. She kept saying it was Christmas, and we needed to work this out as a family. But Amelia was already gathering the kids' things and telling David to get the car. As they were leaving, Amelia turned to me and said that I was the source of everything wrong with our family, and that she was done pretending I cared about anyone but myself. She claimed the post on the forum proved I hated her children, and now I was physically threatening them. David told my parents that if I was invited to any future family events, Amelia and the kids would not be there. He said they had to make a choice between Amelia's family and me because he refused to expose his children to someone who clearly despised them. After they left, Dad laid into me. He said I had single-handedly destroyed our family and that Amelia's kids are the light of his life, and now he might never see them again because I couldn't keep my opinions to myself. Mom was just sobbing, saying she didn't understand how we got to this point. She kept asking why I couldn't just apologize and make things normal again. I tried one last time to explain that I had done nothing wrong, not with the stove incident and not with the original post, but Dad cut me off and said that if I couldn't see how my actions were tearing the family apart, then maybe David was right and I shouldn't come to family functions anymore. So I left. I spent my Christmas evening alone in my apartment, ordering delivery and wondering how preventing a 6-year-old from burning herself on a hot stove resulted in me being excommunicated from my own family. The problem is, I keep replaying that moment in my head, and I know for a fact I did not grab Lily violently or put her in danger. I stopped her from touching a hot pot handle. In any normal family, that would have earned a thank you, not an accusation of child abuse. But Amelia was already primed to see me as the villain because of the online post. She was actively looking for evidence that I was a bad person who hated her kids, and she interpreted my actions through that distorted lens. I get that she's protective of her children. I truly do. But the fact that her mind immediately jumped to "you're trying to hurt my daughter" instead of "thank you for keeping her safe" shows just how broken our relationship has become. My brother called to check on me this morning. He wasn't at dinner because he was with his girlfriend's family, but Mom filled him in. He said that based on Mom's account, it sounds like Amelia completely overreacted, but that the family is now fractured, and he doesn't know how we can possibly fix it. He also said Mom is a wreck because she's terrified she'll never see Amelia's kids again, and Dad is already talking about planning future holidays without me in order to keep the peace. The ultimate irony is that if I had just let Lily grab that pot handle and get burned, Amelia would have almost certainly blamed me for not stopping her. There was no way for me to win in that situation. I have no idea what to do now. Update 3. I am done. I am completely done with all of it. And I finally said everything I have been holding back for years. So here is what happened in the days following Christmas. I spent about a week moping around, feeling sorry for myself, and genuinely questioning if I was the real problem. I kept replaying what Dad said about me destroying the family, and I even considered calling Amelia to apologize, just to restore some semblance of peace. Then my cousin Emily called me. Emily is my mother's sister's daughter, and she was at the wedding last summer where Lily had the bouquet meltdown. She had heard about the Christmas catastrophe and wanted to see how I was doing. During our conversation, Emily said something that made my blood run cold. Apparently, Amelia has been telling our extended relatives that I physically assaulted Lily at Christmas dinner, and that she is considering getting a restraining order against me because I am unstable and a danger to children. A restraining order for preventing a child from touching a hot stove. Emily said that most of the family doesn't believe Amelia's dramatic version of the story because they have all witnessed the children's behavior firsthand, but that Amelia is playing it up for all it's worth, painting herself as the protective mother, shielding her precious children from their violent, unhinged aunt. That was it. That was the final straw. I drove to Amelia's house yesterday afternoon, during a time I knew David would be at work and the kids would be at school. I knew she'd be home because she works part-time and usually has Tuesday afternoons off. When she opened the door and saw me, she immediately tried to slam it shut, but I put my foot in the doorway and told her we were going to talk, whether she liked it or not. She threatened to call the police, and I told her to go right ahead because I would have plenty to tell them about her slanderous lies regarding what happened at Christmas. She let me in, but she stood by the door with her phone clutched in her hand, as if she was ready to dial 911 if I made a sudden move. The entire scene was so absurd I almost laughed. I sat down on her couch and just started talking. I told her I was sick and tired of being painted as the villain simply because I have basic expectations for how people should treat one another. I told her I was done with her twisting every conversation about her children's behavior into a personal attack on her parenting, and I was exhausted from walking on eggshells around her entire family. Amelia tried to interrupt with her classic line, "You don't have kids, so you don't understand." But I cut her off immediately. I told her that I don't need to be a parent to recognize when children are being raised without boundaries or any respect for other human beings. Then I really let her have it. I told her that her gentle parenting is nothing more than lazy parenting disguised with a trendy name. I told her she is so terrified of her children, experiencing a moment of discomfort or disappointment, that she is teaching them to believe the entire world revolves around them. I said that every other child I know is capable of sitting through a meal, playing peacefully, and expressing basic gratitude when someone does something nice for them, but her children act like entitled little dictators because their mother has never taught them otherwise. Amelia started to cry, saying she was just doing her best, and that she didn't want her kids to have the same childhood she did. She brought up the strict discipline thing again, saying she used to live in fear of disappointing our parents. I told her there is a vast canyon of difference between harsh discipline and having basic boundaries. I told her that teaching a child to say, please, and thank you is not abuse, and that expecting them not to throw food or destroy other people's property is not going to traumatize them. Then I went for the jugular. I told her that her children are being set up for a life of misery in the real world because no one else is going to cater to their every whim the way she does. I told her that teachers won't gently redirect Mason when he shoves another student on the playground, that Olivia's future boss is not going to send someone to a drive-thru if she doesn't like the food at a company lunch, and that Lily's constant screaming fits will make it impossible for her to form healthy friendships or relationships. Amelia was sobbing hysterically by this point, saying that I was being cruel and that she loves her children and just wants them to be happy. I told her that truly loving your children means preparing them for the world, not shielding them from the consequences of their actions. I said that if she really loved her kids, she would teach them how to function in a society, instead of teaching them to believe that other people exist solely to serve their needs. Amelia kept repeating that kids make mistakes and they are still learning. But I pointed out that they aren't learning anything because she never allows them to face the natural consequences of their behavior. I told her that when Lily screamed for the elephant at the zoo and I bought it anyway, I taught her that screaming gets you what you want. When Olivia threw her dinner on the floor and Grandma cleaned it up while David went to get fast food, they taught her that other people will fix her messes and cater to her demands. I told her that I wasn't the problem. The problem is that she is so consumed with being the cool mom, who never says no, that she has forgotten her job is to raise functional human beings, not to be her children's best friend. Amelia tried to turn it back on me, saying that I obviously hate children and that I'm just jealous of her family. She said I'm bitter because I'm all alone and I can't stand to see other people happy. I just smiled and told her that if she thinks her family looks happy to outsiders, she is profoundly delusional. I told her that every family gathering turns into a high-stress event because everyone has to tiptoe around her children, and that she spends most of every event running after them, playing damage control while pretending their behavior is perfectly normal. I told her that David looks miserable half the time, that our parents dread hosting holidays because they have to child-proof their entire house as if they're preparing for a hurricane, and that other family members have started making excuses not to come to gatherings where her kids will be present. That hit a nerve. Amelia asked if people really talk about her kids that way, and I told her the honest truth. Yes, they do. I told her that Emily's kids ask why they can't act like Mason, Olivia, and Lily, and Emily has to explain that different families have different rules. I told her that our cousin Michael stopped having his kids over for backyard barbecues after Lily destroyed his prize-winning rose bushes, and Olivia finger-painted his deck railing with ketchup. Amelia was silent for a long time after that. Then she tearfully asked me if I wanted her to hit her kids or scream at them like our dad used to. I told her I wanted her to be a parent, not a doormat. I wanted her to say no when her children make unreasonable demands. I wanted her to make them apologize when they hurt or inconvenience other people, and to actually follow through with consequences instead of just making empty threats. I told her she needs to stop making excuses for their bad behavior and stop acting like anyone who expects basic human decency from her children is launching a personal attack on her as a mother. I said, I love those kids, but I am no longer willing to pretend that throwing tantrums, destroying property, and showing zero gratitude is acceptable behavior just to keep the peace in this family. Before I left, I did apologize for posting about our family problems on a public forum, explaining that I understood why that felt like a betrayal. But I also told her that I was not sorry for the content of what I wrote, because it was all true, and that maybe hearing it from strangers was the only way she would ever see what everyone else has been too afraid to say to her face. Amelia said she needs time to process everything and that she is going to talk to David about maybe getting some professional help. I have no idea if anything will actually change, but at least, for the first time, I have said everything I've been thinking for years.